Hello, teachers. I know that sometimes it's kind of challenging when we have these short lessons, but I hope that there's some excitement as well, that this allows us to slow down, dig in, and really try to enjoy every morsel of, in this case, the parable of the Good Samaritan. As you know, our objective is always to help our students to deepen their conversion to Jesus Christ and his restored gospel. But every lesson also has a little mini objective. In this case, we want to help students to follow Jesus' example of loving one's neighbor. And so we want them to feel a recognition that everybody around them and me are neighbors, the family of God, and that we can have Christ-like attributes of love and charity and wanting to serve and bless and help them. And so that's our big bullseye for this lesson. And so we want to slow down and try to hit that. There are some great ideas, and I want to share just a couple associated with that, all towards that end. This call-out box invites us to mark and make notes in scriptures, and so I'm going to share a few ideas for that. As we help students to interact with the scriptures, it's active learning, but it also draws them to a place where the Spirit can testify of doctrines and principles that could lead to Christ-like behavior. So as we start the lesson, the first activity mentioned is invite students to record in their study journals their response to the following questions down here. Most of our classes are going to be early in the morning, and so my suggestion is that this might not be a great fit for every class. We might want to start with a little bit more energy and vocal participation. And so you could have students pair up with a partner to respond to these questions, a group of 3. I might even do this as a class. If I've got kind of a smaller class, I could say, students, I'm going to give you 30 seconds just to think, when's the last time anybody helped you with anything? And in 20 seconds, or 30 seconds, I'm going to call on you by name and just ask you about it. And so it's simple, it can be fun, but then you're asking questions, why do you think they helped? Or how did you feel? And so we're just getting students alive and alert. Our first opportunity to mark comes with one verse. We're going to introduce that we're going to just look at one parable. We could show a picture of the Good Samaritan, say, what's the name of this? What do you remember about this? But say, would you go to verse 29 and would you underline the question that the lawyer asked that prompted this parable? And so we've got students looking in their scriptures and having an interaction with their scriptures. And we're going to come back to that. The second opportunity for marking comes just right after that we're going to invite them to actually read the parable. And this is a great find and mark activity. And you can decide what you want to invite them to mark, but I might just say, would you just read through those verses and would you mark all the important people in this parable? And so students can do that pretty quickly. They'll be familiar with it. And so they can mark certain man, thieves, a priest, a Levite, a Samaritan. There's the innkeeper, the host at the inn. But just mark. Once that's marked, we can now have some exchanges, some questions about this outline that they now have in their scriptures. I liked a few of the ideas at the end of the lesson that could be inserted here. As you know, we're going to get to our target of talking about Jesus and trying to become more like Jesus. But we've got time to explore this parable and go a few different directions. Down towards the end, there's some instructions about a Samaritan, a quote from Elder Ballard. I think to really know this parable, we need to know a little bit about Samaritans. And so as you say, who are the important people? And they say, oh, we've got a man, we've got a priest, a Levite. They'll mention Samaritan. This is where we talk about, well, what do we know about Samaritans? Why are Jews and Samaritans in conflict? We've got this quote. You could also invite students to search in the Bible dictionary and look up Samaritans. And so you're going to get interactive at the scriptures. You can have them mark anything in there that might be helpful. But we've got to understand Samaritans. So I'd spend some time on that. There's also a unique idea in the supplemental learning activities that we could study the parable. Consider inviting students to study the parable from the perspectives of the priest and the Levite. Invite them to think about some of the possible reasons why the priest and the Levite did not stop to help the man in need. It's easy sometimes, too easy, to vilify people in scriptures without recognizing, Lord, is it I? Am I a lot like the priest and the Levite? And if we're trying to help students to feel inspired and motivated to be Christ-like servants of their neighbors, then we might need to look at the challenges. What's challenging about that? What did the priest and the Levite experience that maybe you can relate to? If you had experiences where you felt hesitant when you knew it was good to serve. And I think we can get into the parable a little bit more if we allow for the perspective of the priest and the Levite to be real to us. So once we've kind of fleshed that out and looked at different elements and we understand the parable a little bit better, we want to see Christ and to become Christ-like. What can we learn from Jesus Christ in this parable? This is an opportunity to do some writing. I always like study journals because it gives us opportunities to have everybody thinking, everybody writing, and then as a teacher, you can call on people as you saw them writing thoughts. You can feel a little bit more comfortable saying, Mary, what did you think? Or Jared, what about you? I saw you writing some thoughtful answers. Well, we do have another opportunity to mark, and I think this is a good one as we finish up the parable and we're getting to some application of it. Look at verses 36 and 37, and would you mark the Savior's invitation to the lawyer? Just underline it in your scriptures. So as you look there, you'll see that at least this is what I'd underline. Go and do thou likewise. And so we're going to have time to really talk about what does that mean? What does it mean to go and do thou likewise? But you can see how can you apply the Savior's invitation in your own life. In addition to writing notes in study journals, which may or may not survive years to come, this is a good time to teach students how to make notes in their scriptures and to have a personal note. So where I've marked the Savior's invitation, I can write a personal note that is my takeaway. And so if I were going to Luke 10, I might have them, and you can give them ideas. Like I typically, when I write a note, I actually make it a specific color so that I will remember in the future every time it's orange and blocked out like that, I know that I have a note there. You'll also have an icon over here, which is fine. But you can give students ideas and have them decide what works best for them. But I think it's sometimes helpful to give them a couple words to start their note because they might need a little help with that. And so I like a couple. Like I could write over here. I like I principles. That's where we use the word I a lot. I want to. And what do you feel like you want to do after studying the parable of the Good Samaritan and Jesus' invitation to go do that likewise? What do you want to do? Just write it in your scriptures. Or you can say, I feel that I should. But again, we've got the word I in here a lot, that it's I'm going to do this. At any rate, this is a wonderful lesson where we can slow down, have a good experience, make sure that we're marking, we're writing, we're interacting, all to the intent that we more fully come unto the Savior. Have a great lesson with this.